All right, guys. So the last couple of days, we spent some time going over some vocab. A lot of our notes that we talked about the last 2 days were getting into kind of the technical terms that we're going to see in geometry and the things that you're going to start to use a lot when we're talking about the things that kind of make up shapes and the figures that we're going to be working with in this class. Today, we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. We're not really going to be on our vocab sheets. We're going to be on this page instead, and we're actually going to start doing some constructions here. So constructions is something that we do in geometry to like replicate or recreate something that they already gave us. So sometimes we might need to just copy a segment down. Sometimes we might need to cut a segment in half or be able to put like a shape inside of another shape. And so we're going to start today getting into some of our constructions. And the next couple of days, we're going to see like different constructions and kind of how you properly use tools to help you do this. So you should be on this page in your guys' notes. Now I'm going to kind of switch my screen here. I have my doc cam plugged in here, and we are going to be doing these together. So I've got my own paper here that looks just like yours, and I'm going to be working through these constructions just like you guys are doing. Now, before we started, I passed out 2 tools for you guys. Okay, does anyone know what this is called? Okay, this is called a compass, all right? We use compasses in geometry to help us measure things, okay? Because I didn't give you guys a ruler today. I didn't give you anything that has numbers on it so that you're able to actually measure something. So we're going to use our compass to help us do our measuring, okay? So that's what this tool is going to be used for. Now, with your tool, you've got the pencil side and you've got the other side that's got that kind of little pointy end on it. Don't poke yourself too hard with that, okay? Because it can poke you and kind of hurt. So you want to just be careful. And then your pencil can be tightened or loosened over here, or if you need to take it out to sharpen it, you can use that side of the compass as well to get that pencil out, okay? And if at any time you need your pencil sharpened, you just got to speak up and let us know, or get up and just go sharpen it yourself really quick. It does not bother me if you need to get up in the middle of class to sharpen your pencil, okay? I know some kids are really particular about how they like their pencil to be when they're doing their constructions, okay? So that's the first tool. Then I gave you this. What is this? Yeah, it's just a paint stick, right? Okay. I didn't give you a ruler, and the reason for that is because I don't want you to just take the easy way out and measure how long things are numerically like you can on a ruler. We want you to use these 2 things together to help you do your constructions. Now, we gave you a paint stick because you're going to still need like a straight edge. So like a ruler, this is what's basically going to take that place, but it doesn't have any numbers on it, okay? So I'm just going to set that off to the side for right now. So like I said, let me clean off my desk here. We should be on this page, okay? And we're going to get into how we can actually do some of these constructions today. So let me zoom in here because we want to get nice and close. Now, if at any point, guys, you guys can't see my paper or you can't see where I'm making marks at, please let me know. I'll try to keep an eye on the screen here, but I may get distracted and be focused only on my paper side, and I might miss that I've moved it off the screen. So if that happens, you just got to speak up and let me know, okay? The first thing we're going to do is just practice on how we copy a segment down. So this first one just says copy the given segment. A, B is over here. And if you look at this new one, they have an A next to it, but do you guys all see this little mark right next to that A? Okay, this is called a prime. Okay, the reason why we have that mark there is because when we're notating something new or something that we're recreating, we don't want to call it AB again because that can be really confusing for somebody if they're looking at a picture and there's multiple ABs. So instead we use this little mark next to the new one and we would call that A prime. Now when I make this new segment, I'm going to need another B, and so I'm going to have to call that B prime. Okay, so we're going to be able to kind of do both of them here, but you're going to have to mark it B prime. All right, so let's take a look at how we would do this. I'm going to have to use my compass here. Remember I said we use this to help us measure. So to measure AB, I just need to take my compass and I need to put the pointer on one of the letters, so like this pointy side, and then I need to put the pencil on the other side. That's going to be my way to kind of measure how long AB is. Okay, so I'm just going to put my pointer on A and my pencil on B. So I've kind of got my compass set like that. And then what do you think I should do to get this same segment over here on this line? Yeah, you just got to pick it up. Don't mess with the setting. You just got to move it over, put your pointer here on A, and then we're going to make a mark. Now, when you're working with a compass, sometimes they can be a little finicky. Sometimes they don't work so great when you're holding it upright like this. So sometimes it helps when you hold your compass at an angle. So if I kind of put my pointer here and then I move my pencil. The other thing that I've seen students do, especially if the compass is hard, is instead of moving your compass, move your paper. So like put your pointer on A prime and then just kind of put your pencil here and then just move your paper to kind of get that mark on there. Okay, let me clean mine up a little bit here. I just want to make sure that I didn't do anything as I was kind of moving that all around. So I'm going to remeasure, make sure I have it set right. And I'm going to put my pointer on A and I'm going to make a mark over here. It doesn't have to be huge right now. Just needs to be enough so I can see where it's supposed to go. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to draw another point and we're going to call that B prime. Okay, and so this segment should look like it's the same length as this segment. You just did your first construction there. Okay, not so bad. Now look at the next one. It says create the length of 3AB. So it looks like this segment is the same. So I'm going to go ahead and measure AB again and just kind of confirm that I kept it the same. I don't want to move my compass setting at all. Okay, how would we do 3AB? Okay, we're going to start it the same way. So I'm going to kind of angle here a little bit. So you're saying do it like we did last time. How many is that? 1. What would I do to get 2? Yeah, move your pointer over here to that mark that you just made and mark again. So there's 2. And then what would you do? 1 more time. Yeah, move your pointer over 1 more time. Make another mark. Okay. Now, if you look here, I've got 3 marks on my paper. But because I'm only wanting to focus on 3AB, I'm going to keep my A prime here. But I'm going to kind of skip over those first 2 marks. I'm going to put my B way over here and give that B prime. And that alone from A prime to B prime is showing me that that's the 3 times that original segment. Now, do not go back and erase these markings. Okay, I want to see those stay there. Think about in the past when you guys have been in math classes, your teacher has probably told you to show your work, right? So this is like the work that we're looking for when we're doing these constructions. You're not going to have steps where you like added or subtracted or multiplied or divided, right? So I want to see these arcs here, so don't go back and erase them. Okay, keep them as is. All right, do you have questions on either of those so far? Okay, if you look at the next one here, create this next length, AB minus CD. So we're giving 2 different segments down here. AB is kind of this longer one, CD is over here, and they want us to put it on this segment that they're giving me. Anyone have an idea on how we could do that? Okay, so I heard you say measure AB first, right? Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go A to B. Okay, and then you want me to put that over here? All right. So that would be AB from this dot here to that mark. And then what do you want me to do? Okay, I'm going to measure CD. And then where should I go with this? This is my CD right now. So you want me to put my pointer on that mark I made, and instead of going off to the right, you want me to go backwards? Okay. Why are we going backwards with it? Because it was subtraction, right? This says AB minus CD. So you don't want to add it on, because that would be if I was adding CD instead. I want to go from B and kind of go backwards here. So I'm just going to mark this would be my first point, which we can just call A prime again. And then this would be my new point. Now, maybe that's D, I'm not entirely sure. The labels necessarily right now are not super important. In fact, I'm not even going to be super picky if I see letters next to it right now, but I am going to want to see you put a dot here and put a dot here to kind of symbolize this is where it starts and this is where it ends. Again, though, do not erase that mark down there. Okay, that shows me that you measured the whole thing first and then you went backwards. Okay, did someone see a different way that one could have been done? Tell me what you did there. Okay, so they said that they measured CD like this here, and they went like backwards on the original segment, right? So you went like this, which is basically what I did over here, okay? But then they just measured from A to that mark, so A to here, and then they came over here and they made the mark. And guess what? It's the exact same thing as what I had, okay? It lines up perfectly. So you could have done that one really either way. Any questions on those first three where we're kind of measuring and copying those segments down? Okay, let's come down here to the next couple. Let me fold my paper, just because we don't really need to focus on that anymore. All right, so the next ones here are wanting us to bisect a segment, or in parentheses they say find the midpoint. Does anyone know what this word bisect means, or what you think maybe it means? Yeah, bisect is going to mean that it's going to cut in half. It's going to cut something in half. When they say to find the midpoint, it's like finding the middle. You're trying to figure out where the middle of the segment is, okay? Now, when we do this, we don't want to assume, we don't want to guess where we think the middle is. We want to use our constructions to help us find the exact middle here, okay? So in order to do this, there's a couple of steps that you could maybe follow in order to help you do this. I'm going to write out the steps off to the side so that if you kind of want to come back and look at these on your own, you can have some steps to kind of go off of. So I'm going to write them underneath here. The first step when you're doing a bisector is you're going to use your compass. You're going to measure a little over halfway. Okay, so when I say measure, I'm meaning with your compass, and a little over halfway means when you're going from like A to B, I want you to kind of imagine where you think the middle would be, and then I want you to set your compass a little bit over that point. Okay, so don't go to the middle, but go a little bit over the middle. So if I'm looking at this and if I think that my middle is like here, then I would want to set my compass over that. So I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit. It doesn't have to be crazy. Okay, but like right about here would be a little over halfway. Can everyone see that? Okay, so there's my compass setting. So then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this off to the side for a second. For step 2 is I'm going to draw 2 arcs from the endpoints. The endpoints would be the A and the B in this situation. So using that setting that I had, that little over halfway, I'm going to put my pointer on B, and then I'm going to use my pencil here to draw an arc. Now when I draw an arc, I don't want these to be little marks like what we were doing up above. I want these to be big arcs that will go all the way through my picture here. Okay? So I like to use my paper and kind of twirl it underneath my compass like this. I feel like that works really well for me. If you want to try to do it with your hand on the compass, that's okay. But sometimes students have a really hard time with that. Okay, but all I did there is I kept my pointer on B and I just drew my arc and I went all the way around the picture here. Okay, now we got to do it from the other endpoint as well. So now I'm going to switch this. I'm going to put my pointer on A and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw another arc. All the way, and be really careful that you don't mess with your compass setting. My compass is a little loose, so I got to adjust that. Okay, so you should have 2 big arcs here, and what you're looking for are these intersection points. It should cross somewhere up in the top, and it should cross somewhere in the bottom. Okay, and this is going to be our last step. We're going to use a straight edge to connect and draw a line. Okay, so remember I gave you that paint stick. This is going to be your straight edge that you're going to use. So I'm going to use this to connect those 2 intersections on my arcs there, and I'm just going to draw a line, and that's going to be my bisector. Okay, so I'm going to just line up, use my pencil here as a guide. That's one intersection. I'm going to kind of eyeball where I think the other one is, and I'm just going to draw a line up straight down through there. That line is going to be right through the middle of that segment AB, so that's going to be your bisector. Okay, any questions on how I did that? So I want you guys to go ahead and bisect CD over here on your own. Okay, as you're finishing up, I'm kind of getting mine started up here. I just measured a little over halfway, and I made those 2 arcs, and now I'm just connecting. And so your final construction should have looked something like that, okay? The key with constructions is take your time, okay? This is not a time where speed is necessarily your friend here. You want to slow down, and you want to take your time as you do these constructions, because it's really easy to mess something up or to accidentally move your compass if you're trying to go too fast, okay? So if yours doesn't look like it's in the middle, you're going to have to go back and like start back over again, because maybe something happened when you picked up your compass and you moved it to another side of the paper. It's really easy for these things to be changed a little bit, okay? All right, let's go on here to the last one, which is to copy an angle, okay? So I'm going to look down here on these last couple. We're going to be able to take this angle that I have over here, and I want to copy it over here, okay? Again, I'm going to kind of give you some steps that you can use to help you do this. So the first step would be to measure one of the sides of the angle. So I'm just going to put, for step 1, we're going to measure one of the sides of the angle. Okay, it doesn't really matter which one you go to. I usually try to do the shorter of the two, just because it will cause me a little bit less work in the future. But if you happen to choose the longer side of the angle, it's not a big deal. You'll just have to maybe do something to get to the next step. So what I'm going to do is, looking at these, they're pretty close, but I'm going to go ahead and measure from A up to this end of the arrowhead. Okay, so I'm going to use kind of that top side. I'm going to put my pointer at A, and I'm going to move my pencil here up to that pointer. Okay, so like right there is kind of that measurement that I'm talking about. Now, if you want to do the bottom, that's fine. It's going to be a little bit longer than what I have right now. Okay, but I just went from here to the end of that arrowhead. Okay, so I'm just going to set that down for a second. My next step is I'm going to draw an arc through the angle. Okay, so what I mean is I'm going to use that same measurement that I had there with my compass. I'm going to keep my pointer on A, and I'm going to draw an arc that goes through this angle. I want it to connect from this arrowhead, and I want it to go through the other side. Okay, so I'm going to put my pointer on A, and I'm going to draw an arc here, like so. Okay, so I just had to go all the way through. And now, using that same measurement, I'm going to also come over here to A prime. I'm going to do that exact same thing. So I'm going to keep the same setting, and I'm going to draw another arc over here. Okay, so you should have two arcs that look pretty much the same, but you've got one on the angle and you've got one over here. So I'm going to maybe add on to step 2. I only had written draw an arc through the angle, and then I'm going to say and copy over. Copy over to the other side there. So I'm just going to add that on. Okay, so far we've measured one of the rays, one of the sides of the angle. We drew an arc through the angle, and then we took that same measurement and we put it over on that line that we're trying to copy this angle onto. Okay, now just real quick, if someone had measured this side instead, you can see how this arrow is a little bit farther off, and you were to draw an arc that came from here and it went up, it's going to not hit this side, and you would have to extend this side in order to do the next step here. But if you use the shorter one, you don't have to do that. If you do that though with the longer side, it's not a big deal. You'll just have to maybe extend that side a little bit so that it crosses that intersection point. Okay. All right. Now that we have this, what I'm going to do is measure where like the side length is here. So I'm going to use that same marking here. So I'm just going to measure how far is that side of the angle. So I'm going to write down, I'm going to measure the side of the angle. And let me see what I have here. And I'm going to move my pointer over to this intersection point here. So over to intersection of arc and line. And I'm going to draw a new arc. Or I'll say maybe a mark here. I don't necessarily need a really big arc for this point, but what I'm going to do is measure how long this side is here. So it should already be set for me. And I'm going to come down here because this should reach. I'm going to come here and I'm going to make a little mark through my arc that I had on this picture. So I took this measurement that I had from my original arc that I drew, okay? I'm going to come down here because this should be the same measurement. I'm going to come down here and put my pointer on that intersection point, and I'm going to go ahead and just draw a little mark here. Okay, so I just put it here and I just drew a little arc. Then what you're going to do for your last step is you're going to connect A prime to that intersection that you just created. And this should create the angle. So they already have A prime marked over here. Now that letter could change, okay? You won't always have an A prime there. Maybe they call this angle M, okay? But now what I'm gonna do is connect this up there to that intersection of the arc. So where those two crossed, I'm gonna connect it to the A prime. I'm gonna draw my arc, or not my arc, my line, okay? And so now I look at those two angles, they look like they're the same angle there. Okay, so that's how you're going to copy an angle over. Anyone have questions on how to copy that angle? Okay, I'm going to get you guys a worksheet here today, and we are going to practice doing those couple of things that we've talked about.